Hello everyone, welcome back to Shred Guitar in the 80s. Today's going to be just a cool day, a fun day. We're going to talk about Al Di Meola, to me the original shredder, the original speed demon. His groundbreaking ideas, licks, and technique in the 1970s really paved the way for all the playing right up through today. All the virtuoso kind of fast alternate picking, all that stuff we all owe to Al Di Meola. And it really came to light in the 1980s. You had players like Yngwie Malmsteen, who was really influenced by Al. You have Vinnie Moore, who played almost note for note Al Di Meola licks a lot of the times when he played fast. Tony Macalpine really had the nice fast picking, and you could hear the Al influence even in his writing. Just countless other guitar players were influenced by Al Di Meola. And you can't really overstate Al's importance in the guitar community. Historically, I think Al deserves tons of credit. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk a little bit about Al Di Meola and some of the people influenced. And I'm going to show you a couple cool Al Di Meola, Vinnie Moore kind of inspired licks. So let's get started. The first time I really ever heard of Al Di Meola was in a Circus magazine. There was an ad for Ovation guitars, and I remember flipping through the pages and I saw this guitar player doing this crazy chord. And I thought, who's that? You know, I was jamming kind of rock and metal at the time, so I was Mr. Power Chord kind of guy. And when I saw that, I thought, what is that, you know? And then I took guitar lessons from a really good guitar teacher, and I was asking him about picking, and he said, you need to check out Al Di Meola. Al Di Meola is the man to listen to for picking. So I went out and bought 2 records. I bought Elegant Gypsy on cassette, the incredible Elegant Gypsy. And when I took it home and heard Mediterranean Sundance, my whole world changed. I was just totally blown away. And if you've ever heard my acoustic playing on my channel here, you can definitely hear my influence from Al Di Meola. The second album I got was this one, Splendido Hotel. This was another brilliant album. I just love every song on here. Their Music of the Gods is just a killer one. The Alien Chase on an Arabian Desert. Just all sorts of killer songs. I just practiced along to these like crazy, trying to get that articulation, but also Al's syncopation. You know, it was Al's no choice and his syncopation that really appealed to me, along with the speed and his musical ideas. It was melodic, accessible, but it was deep also. I was just a brilliant player. And then I went and got Casino. Land of the Midnight Sun was another favorite one of mine. Just all those albums from the 70s through the 80s when it got into like Electric Rendezvous and Tour de Force Live. And I love Soaring Through a Dream and all that stuff also. Right up through today. I'm just an Al fan. And I also went back and bought all the Return to Forever stuff, you know. He joined Return to Forever when he was 19, and it was just mind-blowing to hear, you know, Where Have I Known You Before? Just incredible. You can hear the development of what would be the shred movement, you know. All those lines that the guys were shredding in the 80s, I was playing them 10 years earlier. It's just amazing. Then Return to Forever followed up with No Mystery. And then after No Mystery, I had my favorite Return to Forever album, Romantic Warrior, just a brilliant album. And the title track with that acoustic solo is just one of my favorite solos of all time, just mind-blowing. Al Di Meola, Stanley Clarke, Lenny White, Chick Corea. It doesn't get any better than that. Those guys were mind-blowing. So Al's just been huge in my playing. His influence is just overwhelming. I can't overstate just what an influence Al's been on my playing. On my channel here, I have an audio interview that was done by a friend of mine named Ed Whittle, who's just a really great player himself. Ed's a really killer player, and he was going to GIT at the time, and he happened to go to a club on Yngwie's very first gig with Steeler. And I think it was him and a couple friends from GIT went, and Ed had to be totally blown away by Yngwie's playing like we all were the first time we heard it back then. And Yngwie was really cool. Ed said Yngwie was really nice, and he invited the 3 of them back to where Steeler rehearsed, where Yngwie rehearsed with Steeler. About a week later, the guys went, and Ed recorded it, and they got to ask Yngwie whatever they wanted. Yngwie was really cordial and played a bunch of Yngwie's demos that he had recorded in Sweden. And it's just a really cool interview. If you haven't checked it out on my channel here, I really recommend it. It's Yngwie before stardom. You know, it's just a young Yngwie coming over to America playing his first gig. So it really is an incredible historical document in terms of guitar playing. And the cool thing was that Yngwie talked about his influences. He talked about Uli Roth. He played some of Cells of Charon. It was killer. And he also played some Mediterranean Sundance. You can hear it right in the interview if you check it out. It was awesome. He played a little bit of Mediterranean Sundance. Then when it was over, Yngwie said if he had to name two of his favorite guitar players, they would be Uli John Roth and Al Di Meola. And you can definitely hear Ritchie Blackmore, Uli Roth, and Al Di Meola in Yngwie's playing. And Yngwie just took it and ran with it and developed something mind-blowing, you know. But those seeds were all planted by those players. And you could really hear on Yngwie's single string stuff where he really was influenced by Al, that synchronized picking. And Yngwie just took it and ran with it, kind of a neoclassical element. But it's really cool to hear Yngwie talk about what a big influence Al was on his playing. But Yngwie wasn't the only player at that time exploring the Al Di Meola influence in a hard rock context. The first player I heard after Yngwie that really had his pick and chops together to a point where they were mind-blowing was Vinnie Moore on this 1985 release, Soldiers of the Night by Vicious Rumors. And I remember reading about Vinnie in Guitar Player magazine in the Spotlight column, and then I saw this ad in Guitar Player magazine for Soldiers of the Night, and they listed incredible guitar player Vinnie Moore. Well, I remembered it from the Spotlight column, and Mike Varney just wrote incredible things about Vinnie in that column, and I just had to rush out and get it. So I remember driving to my local independent record store and checking it week after week, and then a few weeks later, there it was. I was flipping through the rack and boom, Vicious Rumors. And I couldn't wait to get home and play the album. And when I took it home and put it on, it was everything I hoped for. He sounded just like I wanted him to sound. Those killer, fast-picked lines and a kind of a neoclassical element. And by that time, I was a total disciple of Yngwie Malmsteen. And Vinnie just picked up the gauntlet and ran with it. It was amazing. And the cool thing was that he did some really amazing solos on here. There was a break on Blitz the World where he played this really cool descending pick line where the band stopped, and I remember just rewinding that part over and over and over, just wanting my picking to sound like that. He did the Killer Invader that has some Al Di Meola licks, just patented Al Di Meola licks right in the solo. Premonition was a cool instrumental. So this album was just huge for me. I loved Vinnie's tone. I kind of loved the, I still have a soft spot for the early American power metal like Jag Panzer and Vicious Rumors. Good stuff. So Vinnie was right there, right after Yngwie, picking up and doing the same sort of thing with the Al Di Meola influence. The first lick I ever learned from Al Di Meola was one that I heard Vinnie play tons also. And it's a lick where you take 3 notes descending, repeat it twice, and then move it around the neck, up and down the positions of a certain scale. Let me show you what it sounds like. So what I'm doing there is I'm taking 3 notes descending, playing them twice, then moving it around the positions. In this case, we're in A harmonic minor, and I go down 3 positions, back up 1, down 3, back up 1, like this. I always love that lick, and like I said, Vinnie does that tons on his albums also. Those first 2 albums, Mind's Eye and Time Odyssey, you hear that lick quite a bit. And Al did it tons back in the 70s, right up till today. I saw him live a couple years ago in concert, and he was ripping that lick. So definitely a useful lick, and it's a lot of fun to play. Another thing I like about that lick is it sounds really cool when you're playing it in 4/4 because you're descending 3, going up 1, descending 3. It has a really nice rhythmic quality to it. And then not long after, I heard this player, the amazing Tony Macalpine, and I was totally blown away by this album. This is definitely one of my favorite instrumental albums of all time. I put it in my top 5, along with Mind's Eye, maybe instrumental variations and some Holdsworth stuff. Just killer guitar playing with a great tone. I love Tony's Kramer Pacer with the beak neck. I had one of these also. I wish I still had it. Just brilliant playing. And when I put it on, I could actually hear the Al Di Meola influence. I could hear it even in the songwriting on songs like Witch and the Priest with that really cool melody. That definitely kind of reminded me of Al Di Meola. And Tony just had the cool, fast picking. It was just amazing. And the cool thing was there was like two camps when I was growing up. You had the Holdsworth camp, the really fast legato, seamless playing, which I loved. And then there was the Al Di Meola camp where you picked most of the notes and you played these really blazing, fast picked lines with a lot of syncopation and articulation. And it seemed like when I was growing up, there was either people that really loved Holdsworth and they looked down on Di Meola and vice versa. I always loved both, and it was ridiculous. I thought that, to be just in one camp, I wanted to play all of it. I loved all of their playing so much. And guys like Tony Macalpine and Vinnie Moore and Yngwie, they had that both. They had the legato approach, and they also could weave in and out of the really fast picking lines, and that really appealed to me. So Tony's influence was huge, and I'm actually going to cover a lot more Tony in the future. I'm going to do a whole episode on this Edge of Insanity for sure, because it's just a brilliant album. And then not long after Edge of Insanity, I picked up this Vinnie Moore solo album. Being a fan of Vinnie already, when I heard this album, my mind was blown. And it was just unbelievable how clean Vinnie was. And when I started to figure out some of the things from this record, I could hear the Al Di Meola influence. They were almost, some of them were patterns that were exactly like Al. And Vinnie just took it in a different direction and made it his own and just played brilliantly on this album. Every song on it's a classic. This Edge of Insanity and this album are two of my biggest influences and my favorite instrumental albums of all time. I can't say enough about these two releases. And actually Tony plays on this album. And I've talked about this album tons on my channel, so if you watched any of my videos, you know I'm a big Vinnie Moore fan. You have the muting on Life Force. Just brilliant, brilliant playing, and definitely Al Di Meola influenced. Just excellent. If you haven't heard these albums in a while, I definitely recommend pulling them out and cranking them up. So that's at 120. That's a nice speed to get it going. I like to practice a lot around 120, between 120 and 130. It's kind of my practice speeds. And if I need to step on the gas, I can. But I just like to work out at a really comfortable tempo, and 120 to 130 is really comfortable for me. Let's try a longer run. This one's going to combine some ascending sixes with the descending sixes that we just did. And it sounds like this. This is in the key of A minor or C major. So in the ascending part, what I'm playing there is just 6 notes straight up. Then when I switch strings and finish the 6 notes, I start over on that string, then go up 6 more. And just keep doing the same thing until I get to the first string. So slow, it sounds like this. And then when I finish the ascending part on the top string at the 17, I go right into the descending part, which is 15, 13, shift down to 12, then in that position I'll play 15, 13, 12. Then I'll just go into the 6 licks that we did just a minute ago, but in these positions. That run, and it's very much in the Al Di Meola Vinnie Moore mode, kind of moving some of those licks around, the 6 licks. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this, please like and subscribe. I'll do more of this. I'm really having a blast talking about all my favorite players from the era and showing some of my favorite runs and ideas. To all of you that have liked and subscribed to my page, thank you. And until next time, thanks for hanging out with me and have fun picking.